The words that you use and how you communicate seems to be vital. In this genre and in this realm, when you're dealing with those that you love or care about and the aging process, what you say really matters. And to always remember that the person who you're talking to doesn't want to hear it. So when you do it in a compassionate way, caring and compassionate way, instead of like, this is what needs to happen and this is what you're going to do. A friend of mine was just really hit hard by her son, and she's living up her life. And he's like, you need to go find the place where you're going to settle. It has to be independent to start and then move into assisted and then move into memory. And she's like, why? You just have to do it. And they put so much pressure on her. She was so discombobulated for weeks because of that. And then finally she found her voice and said, this is not the right time for me to do this. But I understand. They had no consideration.
Well,
So sad.
And remember, some of it is reality for the adult child or the adult family member. It's very, very difficult. I think one of the things is understanding that relying on the internet is great, but every family is unique and has their own unique situation. And I will tell you that the Alzheimer's Association, the senior centers, every area,
you said the area agency.
It's called Area of Aging. Okay, every state and city has what's called. We have the Boulder City Area of Aging. We have the Boulder County Services of Aging. They will refer people, families, seniors, adult children, to a vetted person, professional, who has the expertise to
someone
understand.
Such as yourself,
I'm
who's
vetted.
been in the field 30
Right.
more years, gerontology, a focus of yours, and someone who has advised many people on the caregiving that goes into caring.
And absolutely, and if someone's vetted and they're licensed in your state, whatever state you're in, you can rely on them, and you can also take them to court.
If you're within the sound of my voice, you are listening to the Sterling Spin podcast, and I'm excited to bring you a new spin on living, loving, and learning with solutions for your well-being. I'm Liz Sterling, and thank you for joining us in the studio today. My guest is Jan D. Summers. She holds an MSW, LCSW, a BCD, and a certificate in gerontology. Jan brings both clinical experience and deep compassion to her holistic, people-first approach to working with individuals and families, and become a trusted voice in healthcare, in aging, and organizational leadership. Today, she'll share her insights on the emotional landscape of caregiving and what compassionate consulting means in today's world. Please help me welcome the extraordinary Jan D. Summers.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you so much for coming into the studio. It's an important conversation that most people don't want to have. Most people don't want to talk about this and what's aging. So you've worked with families on navigating personal challenges of elder care. What are some of the most common emotional or logistical hurdles that people face when starting at the very beginning of this journey? And when does that begin?
Well, I think people need to remember that overseeing or caregiving a loved one or a family member is a marathon, not a sprint.
So that means that we're in it for the long. We're not just going to get an answer and go. It's like start at the very beginning, and that's where you're going to build the whole song and repertoire of what needs to be understood for caregiving for family members usually.
Right. It's a journey. Just think about it as you're planning a trip. You do a guide, you do maps, you have a plan, you need resources and a book. It's a long process. But Rosalind Carter said there are 4 kinds of people in the world. Those who have been a caregiver or oversee a loved one, those who are caregivers, will be caregivers, or will need a caregiver.
That's right.
So she was very spot on.
All of those are absolutely correct. You will be one of those if you're lucky, I guess, in a way.
Right.
I mean, because, there could be someone who doesn't actually require those needs. That's like an instantaneous, and it's not very often. Although people do feel sometimes, I'd like to get out of here fast. Boom, I'm gone, I'm done. But for others, that's not the reality. It seems to me that the people I've spoken to, they say they're not afraid of dying, but it's the process of what you have to go through to get to the end. Well, do you think that's true?
I think that most people, as we age, or as they age, and I'm aging myself, most people are concerned, are we going to outlive our money?
Number one.
Okay? And we don't want to be a burden to our family or our adult children. Those are the 2 major concerns of an older person.
Right.
And logically, people who are aging are concerned about their safety. People who are looking after or overseeing their aging loved one, they're concerned about person's safety, their finances, are their legal documents completed? They want to make sure and preserve the independence of that person. Are they socializing? Are they exercising?
These are the things you're saying in an ideal world. These are all the things that are important because not everyone is going to care that way for the person that they may become responsible for. They may just want it to be as easy as they can make it.
But it's not easy. And I think that's the issue is navigating the resources or navigating healthcare professionals, what medications they're taking. How do I ensure there's an emergency safety plan? If you are overseeing or you're a caregiver, okay, of your loved one, all of those things come into play.
So the safety part of it and the independence, there is a fine line between when it's safe for someone to continue to be independent and when you have to pull back the reins and narrow their world up so that they don't go and hurt themselves. Right. That's like a specific conversation.
That's exactly right. And I have a suggestion for people.
Good.
And I'll share my own suggestion, the suggestion that I had with my own parent. And we call it in the healthcare field, or certainly in geriatrics, we call it a fiblet.
How do you spell it?
Fiblet. A very little lie. So I had moved to where my mom was living after my dad passed away. And she refused to get she was living alone, refused to get a medical alert system. That should she fall in her home, somebody will be notified, whether that's the emergency personnel, myself. So I said to her one day, I said, Mom, I haven't slept for a few weeks. I'm very concerned about your safety at home. So I gave her some information, written information about medical alert systems, and there are a variety of them. I said, when you get one, Mom, give me a call and we can meet for coffee and have lunch too. But I'm not going to talk to you until you get a medical alert. To ensure that she remains independent, there's some valve for being a safety valve. It took her 4 days for her to call me back, and I lived 2 miles away, to call me back and said, I did it, let's meet for coffee.
Wow.
So
that was effective.
Very effective. If you have children, most of the time a parent will do anything for a child.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah, and especially if you tell the parent, you're interfering. This is causing interference in my life. I can't sleep because of this.
Right.
Boom, you get their attention. That's an attention getting way to communicate to the elderly person or the aging person that they've got to hear you. I matter in this equation.
And that also goes for being safe is the number one issue that older people who are living alone or even with a spouse, they understand that their adult child or their caregiver or relative,
Right.
if I say, I want to make sure that you're eating correctly, you're hydrating, you're getting some exercise, you're out and about getting socialization, whether that's at the senior center or going to your book club, please do me the favor of we'll get someone in here to help cook your meals, take you to the bookstore, all the things you want to do, okay? Because that would be a favor for me because I still work.
So, like you're saying, do me a favor. In a way, you're saying, do me a favor. I'll tell you something really interesting. I went to Florida and spent 3 months visiting my friends who are there. And I do some teaching at the JCC. And the first day I went into the class, most of the women are in their 70s and 80s. And out of 25, 30 people in the class, 80% of the women were wearing Apple Watches. And I was like, hello, can somebody explain to me what's going on around here? And they were like, oh, our kids got it for us. And I'm like, why? What are you talking about? Because if I fall down, it registers the fall and it notifies my children and it notifies the paramedics. And if I'm okay, I hit a button, it says I'm okay. But if I'm not, help is on the way. My kids are notified. They call the paramedics, like they're all working on my behalf. And I was like, I'm getting one too. So that I thought how technology and the world is growing and changing to be able to help families to rest more easily, knowing that their loved ones, if they get them to agree. So you were talking about you have to get the loved one to agree to go with the program. Like, yes, I'll be willing to wear the medical alert. Yes, I'll be willing to have someone come into my home and help with the cooking and the shopping. You're using the Fiblet to help them get on board so that you can have peace of mind too. The caregiver sometimes needs care. So let's build that into this equation as well. Like, what do they say when you're on a plane? When the oxygen mask drops, put it on you first. How does it work in being a caregiver to someone? And how do you become more compassionate as someone who's receiving the caregiving for someone to make sure they're being cared for too?
Well, I think it takes a lot of practice. It also means to choose your words very carefully. Here's an example. If your loved one says, I'm worried about finances and the cost of groceries are exceedingly high, as a caregiver or as a family loved one, even if I'm not the caregiver, I might say to my mom or my dad, you know what? I would like to purchase some of the groceries and coordinate with you. It would be my pleasure, okay? As opposed to saying, I'm going to pay for your groceries, I might say, can I contribute to your groceries? When I use certain words, and certainly with a population that usually has come from the Depression, okay?
Right
they're
now,
older,
yeah.
They're not as technology-based, not that they can't learn, but if there are medical problems or cognition problems, such as types of dementia, using your words, the choice of words that you use. If I say contribute to your household finances versus I'll pay for your light bill,
Right.
what I'm then saying to you,
It's so disempowering if it's like, I'm going to pay for you this, or I'm going to pay for that, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. It leaves the person feeling disempowered, and it probably goes against the grain of how they envisioned their financial abundance, throughout their entire life. I deal with a lot of women and couples and people who are in shock that they're going to have to now receive help from other sources.
So, using your choice of words, rather than parent your parent, you are still the child, whether you're an adult or you're only 25 years younger than your parent. To step in the role of being a parent to your parent not only disempowers your elder, but disempowers yourself. So by saying, let's do this together, contribute.
Or let's decide what you want this week to look like, or what you'd like. I could actually contribute by stopping off and picking up some of your favorite groceries from the grocery store on the other side of town. So it's like you're doing it in a lighter way and not. But what happens when you're a caregiver is that it is a burden for many that you have to take on in order to, especially sandwich generation, raising their own children, and then, okay, not parenting the parent, but helping the parent to stay safe and have good quality of life.
Well, I think that comes with doing boundaries. A lot of people are still working, and so they have to put a boundary. They have to have a line of demarcation as to what they're available to do and not do.
So this is the caretaker caring for themselves.
Well, we call it a caregiver, right?
Caregiver.
Balancing work and their own personal life.
Okay.
So there are a lot of things you can do in the work area, in your employment. There are possibly you can ask for, if there's a family leave program at your organization, can you change to part-time for a period of time? Can you job share? Can you make your schedule? Can you telecommute a couple days a week? Can you take lunch early or late to make those phone calls to the physician, to the caregiver, to the house cleaner?
Right.
Okay. Can you have a flexible work schedule? Those are things you could possibly do in your work life.
And I have more freedom than my stepsister, and we're caring for our stepmom. And I'm more available, so I'm the person who liaisons with all the different organizations and agencies, and she's the one who's on the ground, and she goes when things need to happen physically on the ground. So we're working in tandem, and it's so wonderful. I'm just putting this into the mix.
Sure.
When you can work with someone, and I have the amount of weight and responsibility that's right for me. She's got what's right for her. And then together, we get to both support each other, support mom, and feel like there's somebody who can listen when we get frustrated, because that happens.
Right. But, and I will only take myself as an example, and it is worldwide. There are many people like myself who were the only child or only available child. My brother has lived overseas for 45 years.
Yeah, he wasn't going to come into the mix now.
So one of the things, if you're an only child, or your siblings or other family members aren't able to, don't want to, it doesn't matter what the reason is. Make sure you get a support group.
Right.
You can attend a support group that are all over the country at senior centers and congregations and churches. Ask your friends to stop by and maybe take mom out to lunch, okay? Or when you're seeing your loved one, have one of your friends accompany you, because the conversation will change, okay?
Oh, you can bring a friend along.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's a smart idea.
Absolutely.
Because they're like a buffer, and they can help to neutralize. We didn't really talk about the dementia, the memories changing, the frustration. That's a big subject. And I know a couple of people who've recently gone for testing because their families have encouraged them, hey, let's get on top of this instead of it getting on top of you. And so the languaging is important in that realm as well. How do you deal with that? We'll answer that question in just a moment, because I just want to thank you for tuning in to the Sterling Spin podcast. I'm Liz Sterling, and I'm so grateful that you are with us. and that you are here, and I'd like you to keep coming back. So please hit the subscribe button. And when you do that, you'll see a bell. The bell will allow you to be notified every Sunday when we drop a new program. So once you subscribe, hit the bell. And I want to thank you so much because from what I understand, there's a lot of algorithm involved here, and we want to engage those algorithms so that we can continue to bring you fabulous and great programming. Also, you may have a story that you would like to share. We love people to contact us with stories. You can reach me at sterlingspin@gmail.com. New sponsors are coming along too. So we're inviting you to partner with us and sponsor on Sterling Spin. And hit me up on my Gmail. It's sterlingspin@gmail.com. Jan D. Summers is with me in the studio. She's been working in the field of gerontology, of consulting, of compassionate consulting, of people-centered care, of helping families to touch on these areas and subjects that have to do with how to deal with the aging process. And it's big. Is it growing? Are we learning something? If you've been certified in gerontology for quite a while, what new is happening? And then we'll get into the dementia.
Well, actually the FDA just certified that there's a new medication for early stage dementia. But I think the primary issue is if you're noticing cognitive changes or behavioral changes in your loved one or your friends or your parents' friends, the elder friends, are saying, gee, I was with your mom last week and she couldn't find any words, or I went into her house and there were lots of dirty dishes and that isn't your mom. I think having an evaluation by someone who's knowledgeable.
Who's that?
Well, there are geriatric physicians in the country. There aren't as many as there are internists. Most of the medical schools, up until recently, do not even have a segment or a class on aging for the physicians.
But that has changed, right?
That is changing very slowly. I think what's most important is if you're feeling something is very off, make sure you talk with the person's physician. And again, this is very important, in my opinion.
So you're like, hey, mom, or, also, I don't want to leave out a population, and that is people whose friends are starting to show some telltale signs that it concerns you. So if I have a friend and I'm a little concerned about her, do I use the same methods? Do I approach her? Do I say, hey, can I share something from my heart, or be honest? Or
You mean from the friend to the elder?
No, from some older friends that I have who are in their mid-80s.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see certain things. They are repeating themselves very often and saying things over and using language like, I feel so discombobulated, or I don't even remember what I remember anymore. What do I do as a friend?
I would talk to a family member. I would not address that with your friend. Okay?
So, I don't have a relationship with any of their family.
Well, but
just a friend.
My guess is you probably could. Okay, if you've been a longtime friend of the senior or the older person, you probably have heard them talk about my daughter or my son lives in Texas or lives in Oklahoma.
Oh,
And
okay.
I have a friend who's moving there. Could I get in touch with your daughter?
A fiblet.
Yeah. I would not recommend as a friend that you notice your friend's potential decline. I would say somehow get in touch with their family member. But I think I'm going to go back for a minute.
Yeah, you know why? Because I want to acknowledge and honor that you took time to gather the most important pieces of information that you want to make sure you get out, because this is an information moment that people need to gather this from someone who's trained and certified in gerontology and compassionate care. So let us know. What do we need to know?
So navigating the healthcare system and with the primary physician or physicians is primary. It's very important. There's something we all know. It's called HIPAA, the Health Information Portable Privacy Act. Okay, that's been instituted. If you are unable to take your loved one to their primary care doctor or their internist or their oncologist, whoever it is, okay, and you do not have a signature from your loved one who has signed the HIPAA release for the physician, nurse practitioner, whoever, to talk with you as the adult child, you can still get information to that physician or healthcare practitioner. That is
without
without a
a
HIPAA.
family member, you
Yep.
can still get information
To
them,
absolutely.
but not from them.
Right.
Right. Only
And,
two.
and here's what I would always suggest. Type up a piece of paper that has 6 bullet points, very short and sweet. You probably will know or can know when the appointment for your loved one is, on June 10th at 10:30 in the morning. On June 10th at 8 o'clock in the morning, you fax, old-fashioned, you fax the one-page bullet point information about what you've seen of your loved one, whether it's memory, falling, unable to communicate, she had a minor stroke, losing her words, whatever the situation, ran into the car, ran the car she was driving and ran over a mailbox. 5 or 6 bullet points. Call 20 minutes later, make sure the front office has received the fax, ask them to please, we still have physical charts, have them attach it to the chart so when the physician or healthcare practitioner is walking in to the patient's room, they already have a list of information so they can address it. You can also do that, and I would recommend, even if you're attending the healthcare practitioner's appointment.
Right.
It's uncomfortable to do it in front of your loved one. Again, if you fax it
If
the
they
morning
read
before,
it, then you don't have to say all these
Right.
things, and you get to protect them so that they don't feel so bad because they still have pride and they want to feel good. So, of course, you can get them if you can. Isn't it ideal to get some type of a statement written, like this is my healthcare advocate? You
and
get the
that's-
parent to be
right.
able to, or for whoever it is, to be able to sign. That would be an ideal situation.
And that's when we talk about all the logical things versus the emotional things, it's getting your legal documents in order, having your emergency, having a binder with every single contact information in it. So you, your family, your neighbors, keep one in the car, keep one at work. If there's an emergency, you know who to contact, okay? I think what's really important is driving. That's
Right.
a really big issue
Yeah.
because you're not talking only about privacy if you don't want people to come help you. You also are fearful if an older person drives
And they shouldn't be.
and you're concerned about it. Every state's different. In the state of Colorado, you cannot take your driver's license away, nor can a physician take your driver's license away. The only organization is the DMV. It doesn't preclude you from notifying the DMV or asking your physician to notify the DMV, and there are forms. However, in California, a physician can notify for the DMV.
You're picking up that what we're talking about. It's really a national and global
Absolutely.
issue. But here in the States, things are different than they are across the pond. It's totally different. So we're also addressing the fact that some states have different laws and rules and requirements than others. So know your state, know what you need to know beforehand, gather that data and information so that you're informed. As someone who may be caring for someone else, and for me, for my children's sake, I wanted to put all the information together in one place so that they don't have to go looking and trying to figure it all out. And I've communicated this to them. And they're like, oh, come on, Mom. Why would you do this now? And I'm like, because we never know what's going to happen.
But there's so many issues and so many plans you have to make for the future and for current that it takes obviously longer than just
Oh,
what
you
we
said
have.
it's a
okay?
marathon.
It is a marathon. And the best thing I can recommend is to get yourself in contact with the area of aging. You can call the Alzheimer's Association. You can call the senior center in your community. They will make referrals to people like me who are geriatric evaluators, consultants, geriatric care
And
managers.
how do people get in touch with you?
They can go through my website.
Which is?
Okay, it's www.agingconsultant, which is singular.org.
Aging consultant.
Aging consultant.
Which is what you are.
And I used to be a geriatric care manager, and there are several in your states probably, who, if you're out of town and you need somebody to take mom to the doctor or dad to the dentist or check in once a week, and nobody lives nearby, your elder, they're geriatric care managers. I did that for many years. But there are
everyone
lots of
has
things.
a different level of capacity also. I think each individual has to assess for themselves what works for them, what's right for them, what they feel that they can do. And if they can't handle it or manage it, to get in touch with a consultant so that they can help you take the steps. Because even like my daughter's like, Mom, I'm never going to be able to do for you what you did for your mother, for grandma. I don't have it in me. She goes, but I'll make sure I earmark and I put money away so that I can get you what you need. And she wanted me to feel good about that. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, yes and no. It was like a double-edged sword, you know. I want her. But she said she doesn't have it. I have to accept that.
When you watch your loved one, whether it be an aunt, an uncle, or a parent, watch them age in front of you, you are then required to look at your own aging process. And for many people, that's very fearful. Now, those of us who are older, we look in the mirror and we see our aging process, okay? But I think if you think of looking after, overseeing the safety and health of your loved one.
And the legal.
And the legal.
And the medical, what's
Okay.
required for each one of those areas, right?
Is think about it as if you are not an auto mechanic, you can go into the auto mechanic and say, I hear a buzz or I hear a click. The auto mechanic is the professional who can look at your car and do an evaluation as to what may or may not be going on, whether it's a nail in your tire or the engine block or the battery's corroded. Think about caregiving.
So now we've been reduced to like automobiles, right?
No, we're saying there are a continuum of things that we need to look at.
Yes.
To make sure the car is running.
But you're not going to fix your own car. You're going to go to a professional. You're going to go to someone who's trained, knows what they're looking for, what to do. And I'm going back to the beginning, and that is how and the words that you use and how you communicate seems to be vital. In this genre and in this realm, when you're dealing with those that you love or care about and the aging process, what you say really matters. And to always remember that the person who you're talking to doesn't want to hear it. So when you do it in a compassionate way, caring and compassionate way, instead of like, this is what needs to happen and this is what you're going to do. A friend of mine was just really hit hard by her son, and she's living up her life, and he's like, you need to go find the place where you're going to settle. It has to be independent to start and then move into assisted and then move into memory. And she's like, why? You just have to do it. And they put so much pressure on her. She was so discombobulated for weeks because of that. And then finally she found her voice and said, this is not the right time for me to do this. But I understand. They had no consideration.
Well,
so sad.
And remember, some of it is reality for the adult child or the adult family member. It's very, very difficult. I think one of the things is understanding that relying on the internet is great, but every family is unique and has their own unique situation. And I will tell you that the Alzheimer's Association, the senior centers, every area,
Yeah, you said the area
it's
agency.
called area of aging. Okay, every state
Right.
and city has what's called. We have the Boulder City Area of Aging. We have the Boulder County Services of Aging. They will refer people, okay, families, seniors, adult children, to a vetted person, professional, who has the expertise to
Someone
understand.
such as yourself
I'm
who's been
vetted,
in
right,
the field
right.
30
Right.
more years, gerontology, a focus of yours, and someone who has advised many people on the caregiving that goes into caring.
And absolutely, and if someone's vetted and they're licensed in your state,
Yeah.
whatever state you're in, you can rely on them, and you can also take them to court.
Is there anything that you wanted to touch on that we didn't because we're ready to wrap?
I think the only thing is learning to respond to behavioral changes, as this is a part of aging. Please don't think that you're going to address old wounds or get closure for old wounds. Okay, it's not productive.
Don't use it as a time to go dig stuff up. Or,
The one thing that I would definitely say is, and this is really, I think, really could be very helpful, in phone calls. If you receive a phone call from your elderly loved one, and you're in the middle of work, please don't answer the phone. Let it go for 20 minutes. Get to a space where you have 10 or 15 minutes to talk. Quiet. That's your focus. Set a timer. Identify how long. If it's just somebody wants to make contact and have a connection, just listen. But if you're inclined to pick up your phone every time it rings, you're going to say things to your loved one eventually that you will regret.
yeah, you'll be stressed and you'll have to get it out quickly. And that's a great tip. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there
Thank you.
tips also on your website?
My website and most people's website, well, mine just really identifies what kind of people, what kind of situations might be helpful. The consulting services I provide regarding medical, social, psychological, legal documents, how to navigate with your healthcare professional, those are all kinds of things to plan. Better to plan for your current and your future.
Okay. Agingconsultant.org. Jan D. Summers, thank you so much for being with us here.
We say the D because there's a musician and an artist with my same name.
Wow, how do you like that? I guess you're in good company.
Thank
Jan,
you.
Thank you so much for being with us here on the Sterling Spin. And also, somebody may hear this, and if you're in Florida or if in New York or wherever you are, you can find Jan through her website, send her an email. She'll help to get you referred to the right people in your area since you're mostly working here in Boulder County.
Right.
And good service that you're providing. I'm going to make sure my kids have your number. Thank you so much for joining us on another edition of the Sterling Spin podcast. I'm Liz Sterling. And each and every time that you hear my voice, it's because you've chosen to come here. I want to thank you so much. Your presence really matters. I would love for you to subscribe to our podcast. Hit the little bell for notification. And that means that every time we drop a show, every Sunday, you'll be notified. Until the next time that you hear my voice, spinning stories for yourself, great. Making something new happen today, fabulous. Loving life and where you are, that's the best way it can be. Thanks for being with us again. Until then, bye.